HTML. HTML is an acronym and it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. We also call it a language of web. It is the publishing language of the World Wide Web, that is WWW. But what do you mean by markup? Markup language uses variety of tags and attributes to display text and other information on any screen and provide hyperlinks to connect the pages with the other web documents. HTML is controlled by an organization called W3C, which is World Wide Web Consortium. It is an international standards organization and is responsible for maintaining various web technologies like HTML, XHTML, CSS and JavaScript. HTML is the base of any kind of a web page. A small credit goes for the same to the designer of this language, who is Timothy Berners-Lee, or very fondly known as Tim Berners-Lee. He is currently the director of World Wide Web Consortium and has written the first version of HTML in year 1993. He is currently very much alive and 64 years old. A small background and a history about HTML. So it was invented by Mr. Lee in 1993 to create certain documents and hyperlink them. So yes, the first tag which was used for HTML was an A tag, which was used to create the hyperlinks between various documents. In November 1995, HTML2 came out with some minor modifications, and the first official language to be used by public was HTML3, which came out in January 1997. The first stable version of HTML was HTML4, which came in December 1997. And there were some minor changes and modifications in the language in December 1999. And HTML 4.01 became one of the most famous and stable language. It was widely used for writing various web pages on internet. HTML5 actually got published and approved in October 2014, although the work on the same has started in 2008. A basic idea about how the website works. So usually you type down the name of the website, and this website, using the web browser, contacts the domain name server. This domain name server or DNS server actually modifies this hyperlink into an IP address. This IP address is the IP address of the hosted web server where these web pages are residing. And then from there, the DNS picks up the index page from that folder of the IP address. From this particular server, it actually picks up the index page from the mentioned folder. This is how the base of HTML works. HTML5 is one of the latest language which came into picture and is currently being used. In HTML code, there was a separate language at that time called CSS, which is Cascading Style Sheet. In HTML 5.0, they merged all two of them together along with a mixture of JavaScript. So it became a buffet, which gives you a complete package. So we say that HTML5 is not only HTML, it is actually HTML5, CSS3 plus some interaction from DOM, AJAX, JavaScript, jQueries and APIs. So together they make a package deal. It gives you a package. It's not a one language, it is a package of language. So why we should use HTML5 over HTML4? It is important to move your website from HTML4 to HTML5 because HTML5 is far simpler than HTML4 and uses very less piece of code. So you have to write less. It gives you a cross-browser and multi-device compatibility, so you can use multiple same pages on the multiple devices and can have a same feeling. It has a better error handling techniques and gives you a support of offline browsing. The best example for offline browsing is your Facebook or Gmail, where you can write down your email and mark it as a sent, and whenever there is an internet connection, it will automatically send the email. Similarly, you can post a status on your Facebook page while keeping it on hold, and it can be sent whenever the internet connection is available. And reduce usage of external plugins like Flash and Silverlight. So in the past, it has been assumed that there are various virus-related issues appeared in the Flash files. Also, for running the Flash, you need to install a software called Adobe Flash. So the dependency on external plugins has been reduced. HTML5 created certain ground rules before creating this new language. Some of those rules are: they need to develop certain new features which are totally based on HTML, CSS, DOM and JavaScript. There should be reduced need of external plugins like Flash and Silverlight. It should have better error handling because before that HTML4 has very little or no error handling for its tags. And there should be less scripting and more of a markup. That means tags. So a lot of things which we earlier used to do using JavaScript can be done by using simple tags. And most important, it has to be device independent. It was developed in an era when the usage of internet on handheld devices like mobile phones and iPad was at the max. Therefore, it has to be a cross-platform. That means you cannot be dependent upon one browser. It has to be done from the perspective of all types of browsers and can be rendered easily on any type of operating system, including Android. It should definitely have a mobile device support because most of the internet activities nowadays are happening on the mobile devices, which is on the go. New elements are added which earlier used to be done using a workaround within HTML 4.0. And a lot of new attributes have been introduced to make your work easy. There are certain elements and attributes which were already there in the past but now modified and can be displayed. A lot of elements have become obsolete and they can be reused by the help of CSS, and a lot of them have been deprecated and removed from HTML because they were redundant in nature. Along with that, they have made the current syntax very simplified. New elements have been added. There is a provision of embedded media, something new which is known as Canvas, and SVG for creating images, offline storage, drag and drop functionality, geolocation, and many more things has been added into HTML5. So overall, it is a new package. It is a new language which is redrafted over HTML 4.0 as the base. The pages earlier used to be getting created within HTML4 using divs. So we used to have divs, and within those divs we used to provide some IDs or classes with various names and then redraft and call them in the CSS. The system of creating your pages in divs has been removed and a new concept has been introduced, which is the new tags. So these are known as structural tags or structural elements. These has been introduced to help you in designing the pages. We will learn all these things, how to use these new tags, how to use these new elements to help us in designing our pages in more comfort. We will learn about the new tags and the new elements and all these functionalities which has been introduced into HTML5 and how to use them in HTML5 and how to write their code and embed them in our existing website in our upcoming sessions which are planned in the next weekend, probably next Saturday. So please be in touch with our social media handles to get updates about all those trainings. If we go by HTML as a base, this is the total basic. HTML is combined of two sections, head section and a body section. There are certain tags which can only come under head section and there are certain tags which can only come under body section. And apart from that, for the line breaks, we can use BR tags, and for the comment entries within the code, we can use angular brackets with exclamation hyphen hyphen and close them with hyphen hyphen again. Here are the examples for the single line comment as well as for the multi-line comment. Let's come very quickly to the head section. Head section within the HTML does not have any content as of this. So anything which you write under the head section is something like it is in your memory. It cannot be displayed on the page. Whatever you want to display, it will come under the body section. But head section will have all the related files like the metadata files, script files or style sheets. They all come under head section. These are the prominent tags and the maximum possible tags which can go under head section. Head section can have title tag, style tag, base, link, meta tags. If you want to know more about each of these tags, please join our upcoming sessions for the same. Then comes under the body section. The body section is a section which comes just after the head section. Always remember, there cannot be any other tag or any other text between the head section and the body section. So as soon as you close the head section, you will open the body section and there will be no tags or any text in between both of them. And this brings us to the main concept of today, which is responsive web design. So let us understand what exactly is responsive web design. Responsive web designing means we have to create a kind of a website which should be having an interactive view. That is, it doesn't matter, the same URL or the page is getting displayed on a 42-inch screen or on an 8-inch screen. It should fit itself in that particular screen. Along with that, we also need to ensure in responsive web designing that the readability and the navigation should be easy for the user. And there should be minimum resizing and spanning as well as the scrolling end user. And it should work across wide range of devices. Okay. So why we require responsive web designing? We need responsive web designing when we are starting from the scratch. All new websites are getting created in responsive web designing or HTML5. It also helps you in reducing the cost because you don't have to create multiple types of pages or the copies of the same pages for different devices. If you remember, a few years back, there used to be different URLs for the mobile website as well as for the desktop websites. Remember those m.websitename.com? Something similar to that. Now, with responsive web designing, we do not have to keep multiple copies of our web pages. And because it is new, it will go for the long run. So, whatever pages you are creating now should be getting supported in the future as well. So, responsive web designing is the concept of developing a website which can help you in adjusting the layout according to the user's screen resolution. Here are certain examples to help you understand what is a responsive web design. If you can see here, we have a website which is FoodSense. The first image is of the complete website for the full desktop. Second one is of the size of a iPad, and third one is the size of a mobile. It's the same page which gets displayed in the different manner. Let me show you how. So let us look at few of the live examples. Here is a website which is responsive in nature. Now, if I make the screen size a bit small, we can see how the image is getting wrapped up itself and not hampering the view of the website. Also, there is no horizontal scroll bar which is appearing to wrap up those images. Even the font size and the text is also squeezing and getting adjusted as per the screen size. Let us have a look at another such example. If we again squeeze it, it will keep on adjusting as per the screen size. And the image here is getting smaller and getting adjusted within the given space. If we make it more small, it will keep on adjusting itself or comes below the text. This is the impact of responsive web designing. Another such website we have where we have a background animation or a movie which is going on, but when we squeeze the screen, making it smaller to adjust with the screen of a mobile phone, the background video disappears and only the text is appearing on the page. And how can we forget a local website which is Zomato? If you see, if we open it from the mobile perspective, all the fields get adjusted within the given space. This is what is the beauty of responsive web designing. I hope now you got the point what exactly is the responsive web designing. To make the concept of adjusting the layout as per the user screen resolution, we require to use viewport along with the help of media queries. How to do it, that we will definitely going to learn in our future session, where we will be talking about how to utilize the media queries and other concepts to give a good look and feel for our website and give a responsiveness to it. We are talking about responsive web designing, but why exactly we require it? The regular websites are almost useless on the mobile devices, because if you open the regular website, you have to scroll on the horizontal as well as on the vertical scroll bars, which is quite a tedious task. Else the alternative is to create a separate mobile versions of those websites, which is totally impractical, because in that scenario you have to maintain two separate websites instead of one. And again, with new devices coming on, the screen size is completely changing every day. So you do have mobile phones with a screen size of 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 7, 7.5, etc. And we have to get on with what is new. When we are talking about responsive web designing, the concept of fixed and fluid layouts came into the picture. In case of fixed layouts, we usually talk about the layout resolutions in the form of pixels or points or inches, which are fixed. Whereas when we are talking about fluid layouts, we talk about percentages. So the text will or the text or the website or web page adjust the elements within the given screen size. These are the standard screen size available in the market, but yes, we can work around with these with different screen sizes in the future. As per responsive web designing, content is just like a water. A water takes its shape as per the container. Similarly, the content of the page should be that flexible that in whatever device it is actually poured, it should take its shape. Just like when you put a water in a cup, it becomes a cup, and when you put it in a bottle, it becomes a bottle. Responsive web designing is also known as elastic layouts because it can stretch as per the page. One of the very key elements which is used in responsive designing is the floating. We can float the elements on the page from left to right and vice versa using CSS. Along with float, we also have an option called position, which is available in CSS, using which we can position the elements in any area of the page. So we can float the element from left to right and we can position it on any particular corner on the page using CSS. So how should we start responsive web design? It is very simple. We should always use the mobile first approach. That means we have to think about how the content will fit in to all the type of screen sizes. And we should also favor the progressive enhancement instead of the traditional graceful degradation. When we talk about graceful degradation, it means it focuses on building the website for the most and advanced browsers. So now if you are expecting to create a new website or a web page, you will first try to run it on the latest browsers which is already installed on your systems. That way we somehow miss out the old browsers who may not have all such kind of functionalities. And the output of your web page will not be appropriate in that scenario. Whereas progressive enhancement states that you should focus on the content and not on the browser. So it doesn't matter what type of browser it is. Whatever should be the browser, the content should be correctly displayed on all types of browsers. It is similar to an example of a peanut M&M chocolate. So peanut is something which is like a content which is written in HTML, whereas the coating is the rich creamy CSS, and the hard shell is a kind of a JavaScript which keeps it intact. So progressive enhancement consists of few core principles, that is semantic markup, enhanced layout using external CSS, enhanced behavior using external JavaScript. All together gives you the best end user web browser performance. So when we say responsive web designing, it means everything has to be flexible. The key elements are, it has to be a liquid or a fluid layout. The images should be proportionally scaled instead of hard-coded, and use of the media queries. When we say flexible everything, flexible layout has to use percentages and EMs instead of finite values like pixels. And proportionally scaled images, that means hiding and revealing the portion of images as per the requirements, and delivering different images depending upon the device screen size. Foreground images can scale with the layout, or background images or animation can show or hide as per the requirement. Lastly, the use of media queries. So media queries already exist since CSS 2.1 that came along with HTML 4.01. We have been using them using the media attribute in HTML, but the usage is not so frequent. So with CSS3, W3C extended the usage of media queries by making them more flexible and important. So this is all about RWD, that is responsive web designing. It allows us to tweak the layout and present the relevant information first, and after that only we can focus upon the designing and the frills. Meanwhile, back at your desktops, you can always enjoy the animations and the bells and the whistles which are not required on the browsing on your phone. Thank you everyone for this session. We keep on organizing a lot of free as well as paid sessions on various technologies mentioned over here. If you have any queries related to any of these trainings or requirements, you can always ping us on our email IDs or on our websites or trainings, upcoming sessions, or the topic which we discussed today. Thank you.